guys, welcome back to Honey in the Rock, episode 15. And today I'm with Miss Pam, and I have gone to church with Miss Pam for a while now. And we're going to talk about how important it is to serve people and encourage people, and how that encourages them, and how it also can encourage you as well. So how I start every episode is asking my guest what is their story/testimony, so you can go in knowing a little bit more about them. So Miss Pam, what is your story/testimony?
Okay, so I grew up in the Catholic Church, and I was baptized and went to school and services, and my mom was really involved. And just as I was growing up, I just felt not connected, not like personal.
Yes, yeah.
So, and I, that was when I grew up when I was living in New York, and then we moved here to Greenville when I was about 10, and we started going to church here. And the older I got, that it just kind of was like tugging at my heart, that I just didn't feel like I had that kind of relationship that I wanted with Christ. And a friend of mine in about 8th grade had asked me to come to youth with her to her church, and it just happened to be a Baptist church. And so I started going, and really felt connected, and started going to service on Sundays, and just over the course of a couple of months really started to see that I could have that relationship that I had been longing for, that I didn't feel like I needed to kind of go through people to get to get to him. And I invited my parents, and they started coming, and probably maybe the summer before 9th grade, I professed my faith. And I was baptized in a Baptist church, and became really involved. I was in youth, and I was in choir, and I was doing everything I could to serve.
I think that's like a lot of people ask, like, oh, it's the relationship. Like, if you're not having a relationship with God, it doesn't make it any different with anyone else. But like, it's not a rule book. It's like having that personal relationship with Jesus, and that's what He wants. And so that is like, I didn't know that part about you, and like that's so cool to see like how that like changed, and like how you can have that relationship. And so that's with your testimony. Is there anything about your story that you would like to share?
I think that as I got older, I still had a good relationship. We moved around a lot, so sometimes it was hard to find a church.
Yes.
And after being married and having Caitlin, my mom had gotten sick, and my mom was very important to me. She was kind of like everything to me, and she passed away. And I got really angry with God. And kind of stepped back. But then through a lot of traveling, moving with Eric's work and everything, we ended up back in Greenville, and I ended up working at Sevier, and I met Miss Cheryl, and she was constantly inviting me to church. And Caitlin started at Sevier, and she had met Carson, and Carson invited her to youth, and Caitlin wanted to go, and
that's cool that it was more than one people calling you to the same place.
God was working. And so we came to Mountain Creek and came to a couple of services, and I remember Eric was just fell in love with the church, and really felt called, and we joined, and him and Caitlin were baptized. Actually, their baptismal anniversary was a couple of days ago.
That's so sweet.
So yeah, we all came and it's kind of interesting now. Since then, Eric's passed away, and to see how God was working and how He was leading us to the church and to our family, our church family, and He's always working. Sometimes you don't see it in the moment, but when you kind of reflect, you see it.
And that's like, I didn't know all of those parts of your story, but like to look back now, like what a blessing it is that you moved here with His work, and that you met Cheryl, and that Carson met Caitlin, and then that rooted you already in our church. And when the storms came, you're already rooted, and you had that family that, you know, it's our job as the church family is to wrap around those burdens. And it's like, what a blessing it was, even though it's such a terrible, hard thing, but God was still working in that and protecting you and taking care of you in that way. And like, you've met so many more friends and having like some of your biggest rocks in your life from the church. It's like, that's really cool and shows how important it is to go to church, but also how important it is to get connected with people with the same beliefs as you, because that's who's in charge of, like, God's in control of that, and He wants,
and He'll definitely He'll use us to draw others. So.
And we also got invited to Mountain Creek by Leanne and Tom. Just like, so it's like older couples in the church who have loved the church inviting you in, and like that also shows how important it is to invite people to church, because that's why me and you are both at Mountain Creek and know each other, and because someone was bold in that. And so to start off about service, why do you think it's important to serve?
Well, when you asked me those questions, I really, where else could you go but to His Word, and in Matthew 5:16, in the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to the Father in heaven. So we're called to do that. And who better to model yourself after than Christ?
Right.
I mean, He was His service to all.
I mean, like, He laid His life down to serve. And, you know, His biggest service was dying on the cross for our sins, but He did, like, every day a little service to people, healing people, and protecting people. And that verse is so special because when I got here, I was like, oh, I'm going to read this verse as well. And that's the verse she had pulled up, too. So that is just, like, shows that that's a really good verse and how important it is, and that God can speak through us because we chose the same one. But, like, it's important to serve because that's what God calls us to do. And when you love the Lord, you want to do what He's calling you to do. And so I think that just is like one of the biggest things I wrote was like, God called us to serve, and so that's why we serve. And so I'm going to read a verse as well, and it's Acts 20:35, and it says, in all things I have shown you that by working hard in this way we must help the weak and remember the words of the Lord Jesus, how He Himself said, it is more blessed to give than receive. And so, like, for me, sometimes serving for a while, it was like, oh, serving is only me doing all the work. But like, when you serve someone, you're also getting a little bit back because the Lord's blessing you in that. So it's like, it's more blessed to give than receive, and that's what God says. And like, it really is so true, because like, holding the door open might take 10 seconds of my day, but then I see someone else smile and that made my day. But it also made their day because you held the door. So it's like, even like small acts of service or big ones are both just like super important, and it's not all about like, I'm just laying on the road getting stomped over.
Yeah, and I mean, absolutely, and just by your example, just opening the door. Well, we don't know what that person's walking through that day, so that may have been the light they needed to see that at that moment. You know,
they don't have to be big. It doesn't have to be huge like money donations to help someone out. Like, it can be little things. And when you're serving, you're also being rewarded in that, and you're also getting blessings back. You're not only blessing others. Next question for you is, how has people serving you impacted your season of life?
Well, so walking through this past year, since Eric had passed, was so impactful. Just by those who brought me meals or sent me texts, sent me verses, encouraged, just walked alongside me. I think that my walk would have been very different if I didn't have that.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's hard to think that how someone could go through something like what I did with not having a church family
I don't know.
or not having Christ. Yeah, and you know that too.
And there's like it loses a lot of the hope in it. Like it loses if it followers not. I mean, if whoever passes is not a believer, there's not a lot of hope in that. But also, there's not a lot of hope here on earth when you're trying to walk this life now alone. Like, and so it really is. It shows that thing of like blessing, and like you shared a story one time with me about like your best friend, and like that's how you met her was through that. She came and brought a meal, and so like the small things like or change things, and now that's been like your walk for a year, and like just like little things like that like have are really like such blessings, and so it really is important for if you have a friend going through a hard time, it's a hard season, like step up and bring them food or send them a text or give them that hug, like the small things, share the verse, do that. But then also when you're in that hard time, they're going to do the same for you. But something that was like super cool for me to see was even in your hard season that you're still walking in, you still can serve and encourage other people. And like to me that was just like, wait, what? Because how are you doing that? But like at the same time, so it's like it really has been like such a cool thing, and it's like encouraged me to be like, even if I'm going through something hard, that doesn't mean all of a sudden I can't help anyone or I can't serve other people or encourage people. Like almost always we've gone like for like almost like a month or two, we would see each other every day on the way to school. You would drop me off Kirsten and I would be driving to school, and like just like the wave, and she'd always text me, and it made my mornings. And so it's just like those small things of encouragement, those small things of service. Is like a text is super easy to send, and like you sending those and smiling and waving at me is like, wait, I can do today. Like I can do today, and then tomorrow I'll figure out how to do tomorrow too. But it's like that day by day thing, and with the small acts of service and the small things, it really do. And like write that letter and send the text, like all those little things of service and encouragement, like really are game changers. Because you might know what people are going through, you might see that, oh wait, they're in a hard season of life, but you also might not know they aren't just having a bad day. And so also when you're feeling the Lord lead you to text someone or call someone or send that letter, like do it, because He has such big purpose in that plan, because He's the one calling us to serve, and so listen to His call. And so the final question I have for you is, what are some easy ways to serve those around you?
So it can be as small as a text, or a letter. I mean, who doesn't like to go to the mailbox and
It's so
find a
exciting.
pretty card in the mailbox? But and it can be as big as a mission trip.
Yeah.
And when I was preparing for this, I totally forgot I had gone to Kentucky, and but I mean, texts, notes, a meal, a visit, a smile, a wave. I mean, all those things. Anything that, I mean, if you really think about it, what makes your day? What would encourage you? And more times than none, you're gonna be able to encourage whether you think you are or not. And think about what you're good at. I mean, if you know your spiritual gifts, then totally use those. But as big as a mission trip, I mean, going to serve others is so it's rewarding. It's but it grows your faith. It's so rewarding.
I didn't even think about that, but that is such a big way to serve. But like when I was preparing, that didn't even cross my mind. But like some of my best memories and like ways that I grew in Christ more than I know is on this one mission trip I went on, and it was like we were in Tennessee, and it was not a safe area, but I like learned so much about these other things and saw how important it was to bring the gospel and like serving those kids. Like I carried this little boy for miles. I think it was like a mile and a half there and a mile and a half back every day, and like, but it was so rewarding to me too. Even though it seemed like I was taking care of him and serving him, I didn't even think of like I was thinking of more like, oh, smile this. Like that is like a big thing that's like possible for people to do, but also like really encouraging.
Well, on that trip, just being there to watch you guys, you were showing love that they weren't used to.
No.
So pouring into them that way was life changing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And if you can't go across like farther away right now, like places you can serve people in your schools, and there's so many like organizations like here, like in Greenville or wherever you live, like that have kids who need help and need to be loved, and like the ultimate love of Jesus. And so you just like going to play with them is just like a huge thing.
Absolutely.
And then like one other thing while you were talking, it made me think of like especially poor people who were in those hard seasons of life. Like when Grant passed, I don't know if we would have got through it if those people weren't so gracious. I mean, and he wasn't even like our kid, and we had meals brought to us for weeks. And because my mom was always over there, and like it was hard, and so people served us too. And so even when people are going through that season, it's so important to serve them in all those ways. But you can also serve people who aren't going through something hard, because they could just be having a bad day, or they might have had it might be the year remembrance of something hard, and you didn't even know that, but they might seem to be in a good season of life. But like that doesn't mean they don't need encouragement or to be served still, because that still can make their day, even if they seem to have it all together, or they didn't have a terrible thing happen to them recently. Like it's important to serve everybody and rally together. But that is all I have for today. But thank you so much for joining me. You're the best. I was really excited for this one. I was like, she's so wise. She's so just like, I was like, I'm just obviously wrong. So I appreciate it. And thank you guys for listening and watching. And I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye.